Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about Magical Girl Raising Project, which, I mean, they finally state towards the end of it. I'm going to say this right now. Through 3/4 of it, you're wondering where the name comes from, and then they finally answer it. Honestly, I feel this would probably be better described as
a massacre.
Magical Girl Battle Royale Deathmatch.
Well, what they do in the very, very beginning, they show you a really violent, odd kind of scene that you don't get a context to, and you're like, okay, that's
right.
Something.
It is. So it's originally released in 2016, has 12 episodes long, which I felt were just right. I felt like it was just right. I feel like if they tried stretching it more than 12, would have been too much. The genres for it were action, supernatural, magic, thriller, fantasy. And the studio was Lerche. And honestly, I'm not terribly familiar with the majority of the producers, with the exception of Genco.
Okay.
Although Flying Dog looks like it would be awesome.
Given the type of show that this evolved into, the producer we recognize makes sense because that's their kind of thing.
Yeah.
However, it's so confusing because my takeaway from the very beginning was that it's an RPG style game, and that opening scene was simply a 3D or a 4D version of what each magical girl was going through to obtain magical girl powers. So that's how I explained that away up until the very end, where they're like, yeah, no, that's not what we're doing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, how it really starts off is with the bloody scene, but then everyone's playing this like magical girl app. And then the select individuals that are, I guess, are chosen based on certain qualifications are given the opportunity to become real magical girls. One of the interesting things is the main character for this show, Himikawa. She has a childhood friend, Sota, and he also was a very big fan of magical girls. He just kept it hidden because, everyone would have made fun of him for being a boy and liking magical girls. Now, I'm pretty sure anyone, at least in our world, can relate to the constant scrutiny and the belittlement and the shunning and everything else that comes along with being a weeb.
Bronies can totally come. Bronies
are a different breed of their own. All right.
Well, I don't know about you, but the way that, so her male friend becomes a magical girl, and he remarks that, it becomes a magical girl literally when they transform, and he goes, well, everything changed with it. So I am physically a girl when I do this, and I'm a boy when I don't. Now, personally, being of that age, if I was turned into a magical girl, the first thing I would do is just check to see if my junk was still there. And if when it wasn't, I'd probably have a mental breakdown. So he's better than I am.
Actually, he did check when he was first turned into a girl. And they show this too.
But he didn't have a mental breakdown.
Well, you don't know. You just see his face turn red and him start freaking out, and then that's it. They don't show anything beyond that. And then he's sitting there talking to another magical girl. So he's talking to another magical girl, a nun, and he is like beat red while he's talking to her too.
See, the way that they were introduced, the nun and him, because apparently when you become a magical girl, you get an instructor. Essentially, you get someone to teach you how to be a magical girl. And Sota chose to train our main character, who turns into a character named Snow White. simply because he recognizes the character that his old friend and kind of sort of crush turned in, Drew, way back in the day. And he's like, I knew it was you, all that stuff. But going back to the nun, it was implied that the nun was not saintly, essentially, when training him, because when the nun was introduced, he goes, she was my trainer, and that was it. That was all she is to me. She's nothing more than my trainer, I promise.
Well, that's because he's a boy. He wants to make sure that the girl he still has a crush on knows that that's all that person was. And you know that that's how the nun is. She has no eyes for anyone else other than her wife or girlfriend. They never really specified what she was to her, what her partner was.
True. You find that out later, but in that opening when they're introduced, I was like, I was questioning. They always got me questioning in this anime. Whenever something new happens, and you're like, maybe it's this way, but you eventually learn that no, it's not the typical anime plot that you'd find.
Right.
So
you also learn, one of the things that I really enjoyed about this is while it's going through and you're learning about this, one of the key things that's actually really told to you right up front is that every magical girl has their own sense of justice, what their own sense of what being a true magical girl is, and their own ideals of what it means. And so what may be a magical girl for you, what you may interpret to be a magical girl, what it means to be that, does not mean it is like that for someone else. And what this really highlights, this is another magical girl whose name is Calamity Mary. And she is a magical girl. And what's interesting is when they're killing off certain characters, or when they're killing off the characters, you actually learn about their background a little bit.
Each and every one. This one is actually quite unique as far as animes go, where they try to flesh out every character they literally are about to kill.
Or that they already killed.
Yeah, that's true. They do some backstory on that. Like, I've never encountered an anime that's like, hey, this person's either dead or will die very shortly. Let's tell you more about them.
Yeah. And it's the same thing during the transition scenes. Like when it's still like, usually during the scenes where you would have a commercial break inserted in between, they show a couple of the magical girls or one of the magical girls, and they have who that person could be, but blacked out so you can't see what they look like, along with the little bio about them.
Later on, they started having quotes, right?
Yeah, because they already went through all the magical girls, and so they started doing quotes.
Okay. And what was kind of cool to me is every magical girl also had their own unique ability.
Yes.
And whether or not that was advantageous depended on them, because it seemed like it was very, I guess, individually centric.
Yeah.
It pertained to them only. For instance, our main character, Snow White, was extremely keen on helping other people, and magical girls should be helpers. Her magical ability was listening to other people's thoughts who were in trouble. And so she could find who to help and go help them. And it's probably smart to mention that every magical girl's physical ability was enhanced to an insane degree, the point of no non-magical, item or thing could damage her.
Wrong.
What do you mean wrong?
Wrong. No, they actually point out, like, especially at the end when Snow White or Himikawa, they point out when she's out there, she's defeating the mafia and everything like that. She actually says, I got hit 3 times from a bullet, meaning you can still get injured. It's just your physical abilities are amplified beyond that, but you can still get injured by even non-magical items.
But she said it like it wasn't a thing. because she didn't account for any actual injuries.
They also didn't specify how much time it was because it was taking place in another country. So you don't know the time frame as to when this actually happened. You know it happened sometime past, and then she's back.
Okay. But you can also say that they have a rather extremely fast healing ability, because also with Calamity Mary, she shows up when the nun brings somebody in, right? And the nun is training Calamity Mary's, I guess, next person she's trying to train. And she goes, "You don't cross me." And she fires a gun a few times at the new people.
It's actually not the nun. It's Top Speed. Top Speed, the witch.
Right, it was the witch.
Right. Yeah. And what happens is Calamity Mary grazes Kano, the other main character, and grazes her arm, and she says that'll heal when you transform back to a person. That's not that big of a deal. So you do gain damage, you do take damage. The damage doesn't heal right away. You can take more of it, that's for sure. But there are limitations even to what can heal after you go back. After you transform back into a human. What's interesting though, and I don't know if you noticed this, what's interesting is if you lose a limb when you transform back into a person, as long as you're not dead, you gain that limb back.
I did notice that, but only on passing.
And the only time you actually see that is when Kano is feigning dead. She's the only one that lost a limb that turned back into a person.
Really?
Yeah. Everyone else got brutally murdered in some other way or committed suicide.
We're talking about the Kano, the one that survived last, right?
Yeah, along with Snow White.
With Snow White, yeah. See, in the final scene when she turns back into a magical girl and they're talking, I for some reason assumed that she still only had the one arm.
Not the leg, but the arm. Yeah, she lost the arm, and they show her with the arm still when she was a person again, because how she was laying there. But when she transforms back into her magical girl, it's gone.
Okay, that makes more sense. Because
my apologies.
No worries. No. I'm more than happy to be wrong in this particular case, because that'd be just super badass.
Yeah. So the damage, as long as it's not lethal, I feel the damage doesn't carry over into real life. As long as it's not lethal.
Your only technical weakness as a magical girl is your non-magical girl counterpart. So when you're not allowed to transform in front of other people, you're not allowed to, actually, I think that's the only thing. Yeah. You're not allowed to tell people about it.
Right. And I wouldn't say it's a counterpart. It's your non-magical girl form.
Okay.
Because you're the same person. You're just basically powering up, and that's about it. And you change your form.
Well, the really, really cool part that I found, that I saw as far as this whole thing goes, was the biggest weakness is if somebody finds who you are, they can hunt you until you're essentially done. But what's really cool is, I believe it was, Hardcore Alice.
Hardcore Alice?
That's what the name was?
Yeah, Hardcore.
I thought it was Hardcore.
No, Hardcore.
So Hardcore Alice is basically Alice in Wonderland as a mirror, as a negative image. So instead of being an all white, she's an all black. And this chick should have won hands down. She had a broken ability that you could not kill her. And she goes, "Oh yeah, I just heal really fast." No, you had your head chopped off. Like, how do you have such crazy physical strength to knock people around, but also can do stuff without your head? That's your introduction to her. I have to find Snow White. She is the first time. And so she runs off to try to find Snow White. And she's like, "I finally found you," and then gets her head sliced clean off.
Well, she doesn't even say that I finally found you. She just stands there, and then her head gets sliced off. And then Snow White is standing there screaming bloody murder. And this is the one thing I don't like. Right? This is the one thing I don't like. Snow White, aside from the nun, right? Snow White is just sitting there doing nothing, complaining the whole time about what's going on instead of trying to fix it.
Well, what could she do to fix it?
Well, for starters, she could have tried preventing people from fighting or each other. No, instead, she had very emotional points with large mood swings to where she was happy and grateful for Alice actually saving her, to like the next second getting pissed off at her, not telling her she doesn't understand, and to leave her alone, literally within 5 minutes of each other.
Yeah, that kind of annoyed me. The flow of the whole anime was hectic, and the flow of Snow White even more so, because first she's afraid, and then she's of hardcore Alice, and then she's like, "Oh, thank you so much," and then she's also right after that, just like you said, "Get away! How dare you?" kind of situation.
And I feel like that actually really defines this anime as a whole, is that it's really hectic throughout the whole way. I mean, like, it has a purpose. It has a story plot that you can follow, but it's hectic.
You find out that the very first scene that you see where it's like a bloody mess and you've got what you assume was an RPG and then one person killing the monster, that turns out to be the game master, essentially, the person in charge. Oh, I forgot a really main character that annoyed the shit out of me. That dude, that little bobbing, I don't know what the hell you want to call it, pet that goes pom pom all the time. Yeah, Fav.
Yep.
Whatever. Like that. Ugh.
Well, that was the point of it. It was meant to be annoying. And they definitely made you hate that creature with it being so annoying. And Cranberry, who happens to be the game master that you were just referencing, was the survivor of that beginning scene. And her whole thing, and at least they stayed true to this, was, and Fav explains it, her whole thing was to spice up the magical girl raising project. They felt like how it was already being done was lame or not interesting at all. And so they actually explain why everyone was in a battle royale to the death. And it's because Cranberry and Fav got tired of how it used to be, or how they were selecting the magical girls.
I think Fav got tired of it and said that to Cranberry, who had a screw loose. And they're like, all right, fine, let's do this my way. Battle Royale. Done.
Well, that could be it. But how Fav actually explained it, he said that both Cranberry and him got tired of how they were being done. Or whatever it is.
I thought in the flashback that it was very one-sided. I didn't really get that. But I also remember Fav talking to Snow White about it too. That's true.
And Snow White was being told all this information. It's like, look, I don't want Swim to be my master. She doesn't have what it takes. And she's not all there. She's got screw loose. She's not only has a couple screws loose, she's missing a few pieces. All right. I don't want her to be my master. I don't even want Kano to be my master. I want you to be my master. And was explaining it like that because Fav's basically set it up. So Swim, who was like this 8-year-old off her rocker, was fighting Kano, right?
Well, the 8-year-old Swim, her special ability was that she could pass through anything, like as if she was falling in water, or turn her body into water, stuff like that, so that any attack you throw at her just flows through, no damage whatsoever. Super broken, super overpowered.
Right. But, there were also kind of drawbacks to it because light and sound still could affect her. And this was even pointed out. But
yeah, that was the only way to attack her. But I mean, realistically, how are you going to fight someone with sound and with light? To hurt them to the point where you have to break, like almost every time a magical girl died, it's because there was an injury to their head
or neck. Or with the exception of Cranberry. Cranberry got accidentally nicked by another magical girl who had the ability to have massive holes appear wherever she scratched or tried to dig. Well, Cranberry got a giant hole for the of her upper body. But the other way that you could have killed Swim is the same way that they killed Hardcore Alice, which is find out where she lives, wait for her to turn back into a human, and then murder her like that.
Yeah, very true.
Which is, what happened to Hardcore Alice. She was put into a position where there were a bunch of people around her because they figured out who she was. And then they went there, Swim appeared there, attacked her. She ran away, tried getting to an area where she could transform, and ended up getting murdered before she could transform.
It was really the only way you could kill Hardcore Alice, because Hardcore Alice got into a fight with Calamity Mary, and Calamity Mary just. So Calamity Mary's special powers, like ammunition or something like that. Basically any gun she can think of, she's got, and she just destroys. So you've got an unlimited number of bullets coming at you. And then she's like, oh, you're still alive, but in an aura form, let's burn your ass. Dumps a bunch of gas around you, burns that, takes the remains, puts it in cement, covers you with more dry cement, adds water in a 55-gallon drum, caps it off, rolls it around and mix it, and throws it in the ocean. And Hardcore Alice still comes back from that.
Yeah. Yeah, that literally is the only way to kill her. Hardcore Alice is by attacking her human form. But
I realize I'm going off on Hardcore Alice a lot, but honestly, that's probably my favorite character out of the entire anime.
Mine too. She was it's sad that she was introduced late and then killed so soon.
Yeah. Didn't have much as far as like showtime goes, but easily my favorite.
Yeah. But you also learn from F.A.P. also at that same time is that if they wanted to, if Cranberry wanted to, or if anyone else is the master of F.A.P. and they wanted to continue on with the Magical Girl Raising Project, which is a selection of girls to bring to the magical world. And that's all it's for.
Magical world.
Yeah, which is all it is. You learn that it could have been however basically the master chose. It's like, and F.A.P. says, normally it's you go out here and do all these good deeds, or you stand around in a summoning circle and you defeat this one enemy, and that's about it. And that was really boring.
Those that survive and do well are introduced to the magical world. Those that are not, we just erase their memory. However, because Cranberry is off the rocker, she wanted everyone not accepted to die. Survival of the fittest, because for some reason that they don't explain and they allude to, but they don't clarify on, something in the magical world is bad enough to affect the good magical girls because the quality that they're getting, while yes, they are good people, they're not strong enough to do what needs to be done. So, and what's kind of funny is this is not the first project that is going on. It was stated that Cranberry kept killing all the participants because they weren't strong enough.
Yeah. And she even says to F.A.P., spin the report positive because we're not supposed to technically be doing that, which means that they're not even doing shit they're supposed to be doing. They're killing and having this death match, and they're not even supposed to.
Damn. Oh, and I don't know. I'm gonna jump back just a hair, but Soda, his magical girl ability was to make his sword longer
and bigger.
And bigger.
Yep. Well, yeah. He was a knight.
Well, he was a knight, but if that doesn't scream boy out of the entire anime, what's your power? I can get bigger and longer.
Well, one thing that I really, really like that they highlighted in terms of Sota, he was told it is really rare, extremely rare for a boy to be selected for the Magical Girl Raising Project. In fact, it's so rare. F.A.P told him that he will not be allowed to refuse. He was forced into a death match.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but he's like, yeah, you can't say no.
Yeah.
I've extended this. I've sent the contracts. You're not allowed to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but anyway, jumping back forward. We skipped over a few people, but they're non-consequential because, I mean, let's face it, they died.
Like, everyone died.
Bad.
The only two people that didn't die was Snow White and Kano. Like, everyone dies. What's interesting, though, and I'll say this, is a majority, with the exception of Sota, maybe the nun and her partner, and Snow White. No, I'll even say the twins. They're the only ones that didn't have a screwed up background or story. I'll even say Ruler. Ruler didn't have a screwed up background or story either.
Ruler was just a bitch. So who Ruler is a magical girl whose real life story essentially is that she felt that she could run shit better than her own boss. And because she overstepped her bound, she was demoted publicly and humiliatingly. Because her suggestion is, if you just fired all these people, we'd be better off.
It's not even just fire all these people. Fire all these people and cut our ties with all these companies. Like, get rid of them.
Yeah.
And the boss is like, look, you're not here to tell me how to do my job. It's not your place to even say what we do. Your job is to make yourself useful to me. And you're not.
And to make me copies.
Yep.
So obviously she was not happy about that, but her power was, so long as she pointed her staff at you and gave you a command, you could not refuse. The only drawback is she could not move while she was in this stance with you. Because if she did,
it also had to be within 5 meters.
Yeah, within 5 meters.
So
again, overpowered, like stupid broken. I could be within 5 meters of you and be like, hey, I want all your money and you have to obey me. And you could not disagree. And it was binding even after she stopped.
I don't think it was binding even after you stopped, because if that was the case, then Snow White would have been staying in the same spot even after. That's why, in order for the command to continue on, you have to be in the same position and you can't move.
Oh, okay. That changes my opinion. I thought it was overpowered because, awesome, but it's literally a support role.
Yes.
Wow. That's
because
sad.
if that was the case, she could have done the pose, commanded Snow White to give her all the candy, and the candy is what you're originally starting to try and get. So that way,
well, she should have been able to do that then.
She should have, but because she was in a position that she could not move from, right? She just said you can't move. And then what happened was Swim came up, grabbed her basically her PDA and did it while she was holding it there at that time. If she moved, even if she went to move to just grab her PDA, she would have lost the ability to command. So what I'm saying is, if she had that ability for the person to continue on, even after she gave the command, she could have just said, hey, give me your PDA, let go of the pose, and then Snow White would have done it without any regard, period.
That said, that power actually turned into something, again, it went from overpowered to stupidly weak back to overpowered because she could hold that pose, kill yourself. You couldn't refuse a command like that.
Exactly.
So, I mean, she just misused that power.
Yeah, she had the power.
She misused it.
Yeah, she had the power to be able to actually win and be in control over a majority of it. She just screwed up.
So just like in real life, she overplayed her hand.
Exactly.
Damn.
Yep. Yeah, what ends up happening for Swim is Swim, how she ends up dying, because we never got back to it. Swim ends up getting knocked out because Kano had a bunch of flashbangs and everything like that, because Calamity Mary had a bag and when Calamity Mary got killed by Kano, Calamity Mary had all the items that she could produce in the bag to help make it that much faster for her to be able to grab them, I would have guessed. And what happened was Kano threw a couple flashbangs and concussion grenades, and it knocked Swim out. And so Kano goes over and stabs her a bunch of times in the back while she's in her human form, and then walks away and passes out, giving the appearance that she was dead. And F.A.P is telling Snow White, you should just be my master. And Snow White's like, I want no part of this, and tries to destroy the thing. But then Kano gets up, starts walking over with the weapon that Swim had, which is a magical weapon from the magical world, which could destroy the item that F.A.P was in. And F.A.P starts freaking out. And then Snow White hears F.A.P saying, dear God, I got to try and talk my way out of this because that will destroy me. And Snow White says, destroy it. And there you go. F.A.P is gone.
When you explain it like that, it's a whole lot less dramatic than the scene actually became.
It's because that scene is very anticlimactic too. I mean, like, it's a build up. It's a build up. It builds up. And then it's like this one thing can't actually destroy it. And then it's actually destroyed. It's, oh, well, all right.
Yeah,
well,
it was like if you're on a roller coaster, it goes, keeps clicking up and you're like, oh God, how high are we going? Oh no. And it turns out that you're just on a kiddie ride. So you're like, oh God, oh no, this is it.
Yep. Yep. That's basically it right there too.
For you liking it, I'm surprised, especially for the ending, because it doesn't have any bookends. It leaves everything not only wide open, but season 3, 4, 5, 6 could probably come up if they had decent writers.
If they had.
So, I mean, there's definitely potential for the future of this anime.
There is.
If not for the shortcomings of people just wanting it to be a one-off. Because at the end, they're like, hey, you were a bit flash. It was Kano, right?
Yeah.
So in the end, Kano told Snow White, hey, you were a bit too flashy over there in Paris or some shit like that?
Wherever she was.
Yeah, we got another email. Did you get it? And then Snow White goes, yeah, I got it. But I just throw all that stuff away because I don't want any part of the magical world.
Yeah. And what Kano says is, they keep telling me to tell you to not go into other magical girl territories.
And Snow White's like, hey, if I hear help and that someone needs help, I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
They don't own me. They don't know me. And
anything like that.
Yeah. After all the shit they put me through, I don't have a border.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is, one of the real interesting things is a majority of the girls, back to what I was saying earlier before we got off on the tangent, is a majority of the girls, with the exception of maybe 5 of them, had a really screwed up background, or they were just screwed up individuals. Yeah.
And they were chosen specifically because of that. Like when Calamity Mary was chosen,
she was chosen because she was an alcoholic, abusive mother whose family literally just left her.
Yeah. And I believe what was said was something to the effect of, if we don't have characters like you in the game, it'll be a very boring game.
Yeah. Yep. You're, what she said was, you're the type of individual that can only exert power and be happy if you have people weaker than you to basically pick on. So what if I made you stronger than any human out there?
Yeah, that'd be way too appealing for someone like her. Way too appealing. That's like you gave me an offer I could not refuse.
And that's basically how it was for everyone. They were basically given it or persuaded in such a way unique to them that they couldn't refuse.
Guarantee their acceptance.
Yeah. So I think we've pretty much beaten this horse.
way past what they should have beaten Swimson.
Exactly. So on a scale of up to 10, sir, how would you rate this?
This is pretty even keel. I'm gonna go 5.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I really don't have too many bad things to say. I originally thought it was going to be like a card captor thing, so my expectation coming into it was completely different. So that probably confused me for the first little bit, but it's not something I'd recommend. It's not a bad anime by any stretch. It's very generic. It doesn't have the allure, like, hey, you got to watch this. because the rises aren't that high and the falls aren't that deep.
All right. So. Fair enough. For me, I'm going to give it a 3. I give it a 3 because, one, my love for wonderful endings, and this had a pretty lackluster open ending. The animation was good. The ending was crap. Didn't really like that the nun just completely went off a rocker after preaching so much and then committed suicide. I mean,
fair.
That was so anticlimactic.
That's fair. Yeah, the mentality shift, I agree, was uncharacteristic.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for today. It is your choice for next week, sir.
Yes, it is. And I think you're going to like my choice because I've been thinking about it for a while. I didn't want to do a random because I wanted to share with you something that I found.
Okay.
I think you actually might have mentioned this to me a while ago, but I forgot about it. It is Arifureta from Commonplace to World's Strongest. Do you remember that? Maybe I didn't. Okay. Did you ever watch that whole thing? It's only 13 episodes, but
yes, I did.
Dear Lord, is it satisfying?
I actually told you about that when I was watching it. I told you to check it out when it was coming out, like halfway through the season. We had talked about it. I said, you should check it out, man. It's actually pretty good.
Well, I'm glad we agree on that. So yeah, that'll be my choice for next week.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, hope you enjoyed this week. And if you feel like we missed something or that we didn't delve into anything deep enough on this week's show, let us know. If you have any recommendations or thoughts about the previous episodes or what we should watch, reach out to us, featuredanimepodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at those anime guys. We also have a voicemail link in the show notes, and we even have a Discord server up, and the link for it is also in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Jack.
And I'm Rick, and we'll see you later.